in one of our chapters, Jimmy, that we talk about the mind and deception in the mind, which is a great battlefield. Joyce Meyer's The Battlefield of the Mind, great book, and many others have written about the mind. And so as believers, we Satan takes this battle of deception into our minds. And what would you say, and how would you combat that in these end times, especially, that the battlefield really is in our mind? And what is the mind, and what is it all about, and what do we do about that?
Well, 2 Corinthians 10 says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. It says we're taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Okay, so any thought that you don't take captive will take you captive. Any thought that you haven't taken captive has you captive. And so when a thought comes into our minds, it says that it exalts itself above the knowledge of God. We're pulling down strongholds in every thought that exalts itself above the knowledge of God. And so every person, when they get saved, they're in bondage mentally to some degree. You don't have the word. The only thing that's going to set you free is the word of God. Jesus said, if you're my disciples indeed, you'll abide in my word, and you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So when I come to Jesus and I began to let the word into my mind, the word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword. You don't read the Bible reads you. And the only way that you're going to be free from deception is the word of God. The word of God is the only thing that keeps us from being deceived. And it's the only thing that can set us free. So my wife and I both, when we got saved, we went through a process of having to get set free from all the crud that was on us just because of, living in a home where our parents weren't saved. And so it says that we're taking every thought captive. The word captive, you'll appreciate this, David. The word captive means spear point. And the word obedience means to listen under. That we're taking every thought in our minds like a threat. Any thought that does not conform with the word of God, I put a spear under its neck because it has me captive, and I make it listen under Jesus. We're taking every thought captive to Jesus. And so it has to listen under Jesus. And every thought that agrees with Jesus can stay. And every thought that doesn't agree with Jesus has to leave. I reject it, and I replace it with the word of God. You can't take a thought out of your mind, but you can replace it with the truth. And so the process of deception is the devil taking truth away from us. And we never had it in the first place. And so our mind is full of deceived thoughts. And this is the battlefield, that's for sure. But the process of freedom is you get in the word of God. My wife is an example of this. When we got married 48 years ago, my wife was she had the lowest self-esteem of any person I've ever met, and she hated herself. She was full of hate and low self-esteem, self-hate and low self-esteem. She's read the word of God every day of our marriage for 48 years, including this morning. And when she first started reading it, she didn't believe it, especially the stuff that talked about how much God loved her. But she read it every day. And I watched as the word of God completely set my wife free and turned her from being a beaten down woman with no self-esteem to be in the likeness of God. And so I believe the very first words of Satan to humanity were, "Has God surely said?" Mm-hmm. Satan came to Jesus in the wilderness in Matthew 4 and Luke 4 and tempted him. And 3 times Jesus said, "It is written, it is written, it is written." It is a war of the word. And to the degree that I embrace the word is to the degree that I'm free and walking in truth. And to the degree that I reject the word is to the degree that I'm deceived. In 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul says, because they did not receive the love of the truth, right, so as to be saved, God will send them strong delusion that they may believe the lie. So you can date the word or you can marry it, but dating the word doesn't get you anywhere. You have to marry it. You have to be committed to it.
Excellent. Thank you, brother.
Get the books at www.troyanderson.us, www.davidjgiammona.com, and www.battle-ready.org. To prepare you to recognize and counter deception not only in politics, religion, media and science, but especially in yourself. It's available via Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Baker Bookhouse, ChristianBook.com, Hudson Booksellers, Target, Walmart, Books A Million, Google, Cokesbury, Parable, Mardel and most anywhere books are sold.